for the touch of your lips, dear, but much more for the touch of your whips, dear. You can raise welts like nobody else as we dance to the masochism tango.
All right, welcome everybody to Hourgasm. This is the podcast where we talk about decolonizing sexuality and gender. I am Lindsay G. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I use she, her, or they, them pronouns.
And I am Lenny Peppers. I use she, her pronouns.
And oh, sorry. I thought I was going to introduce myself. My bad. Hi, I'm Nikki Darling, and I use they, them pronouns.
So we are so excited to bring you a show with Nikki Darling. Nikki and I have known each other for a few years, but it's been a while since we have had like a sit-down chat. So I am really excited to have them on the program where we can dig into topics about decolonization and particularly sex work. So before we get into it, Lenny has a short spiel.
We use heteronormative terms of gender binary of men and women under the understanding that there are gender androgynous, agender, bigender, pangender, and gender fluid norms that exist outside of cisnormativity. While we tend to use male and female as shorthand, this is not meant to undermine the very serious role of colonization in violence against two-spirit and non-conforming individuals. Even more so, this is not meant to obscure the reality that two-spirit and non-conforming people are the most likely to experience sexual violence, as we have mentioned in earlier episodes. We do not believe in the gender binary without fluidity, which is a Euro-Western construct that forced a strict gender division on our societies, which itself is a form of violence.
Thank you so much, Lenny. We always like to get that out in front so that we don't spend the entire episode apologizing for using language that isn't absolutely accurate for every person, because we wouldn't get a whole lot done if we were apologizing the whole time. So anyway, Nikki, thank you again so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. But before we get, into the nitty-gritty of it, would you want to tell our listeners just a little bit about who you are, where you're coming to us from?
Oh, wow. Who am I? My name is Nikki Darling, I guess otherwise known as Paisley Parker. I am a Black, queer, non-binary human being. I come from a sex worker background. I am a dancer. I am a poet. I like to believe I am a healer in training. And I am I guess I like to define myself as a spiritual abolitionist. I guess that's me, and the hats and the vibes that are myself.
Yeah, so I've known you for a while, and I've been following along with your life that you put on social media, so I recognize that that's only a small portion of your life, but I've been reading some of the poetry that you've been putting up, and I've been kind of, trying to, be somewhat on your journey with you. And I've been seeing a lot of posts that you have been putting up about, a process of personal decolonization in your own life, which I think sounds amazing, and I am really curious if you want to talk about what that looks like a little bit for you, because maybe I want to copy you a little bit.
I've had a really interesting journey because I grew up very much in a religious household. I was the child of a preacher. I don't know. I think growing up there was always that weird, I guess I was getting frustrated with, the expectations and the positions and dispositions that I had to hold due to being placed in this box that was because you have a uterus or vagina, then therefore you are a female and females do these things. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to do these things, you'll get punished for doing these things. Or if you're going to do these things, you'll get shamed for doing these things. And that never made sense to me. And that always was extremely frustrating and confining. And I think when I was younger, there really wasn't language really, I don't think there was really as much language about, or at least I wasn't exposed to the language of like gender binary or queerness. And I think kind of by the time I went to college and experimented with sex and experimented with all the other things, but also like with experimenting with that, I also caught kind of like the issues of like being slut shamed or specifically like feeling and experiencing the difference of the values of my body as maybe not a rich white person in a very like private school that did not have Black or brown people in them. And so I also like ran into that. And then after I graduated from college and all of that, and couldn't find any work in my field that I wanted to be a teacher when I first graduated from college. And, I kind of came into sex work, honestly, as a means of survival, also as a means of like exploration. And even then in the industry, I still ran up against issues of needing to fit in boxes. That also caused harm, and also, caused a lot of really, I don't know. I think there were times where like, there were traumatic things that, I kind of had to process and understand, because there's hella racism in the industry as well. And so I think, and then I got really burnt out, and then I left the industry, and I started doing, like other workouts, regular normie work. And I think I was starting to realize, I think there was a pattern I was realizing that there are these specific systems. There are these systems that are put in our society and that are imposed in our society, and these systems that force us into these places that we had no consent. I guess I came to an understanding that these systems and these things all like come kind of like, when I see it, it's like these like dendrites, and these dendrites like filter into maybe like a few different common threads. And I realized that one of the main common threads was colonization. For me, like I thought colonization and capitalism and white supremacy. And when I saw these things, and when I saw, the more I saw and I understood that these things were so ingrained in our system, the more I wanted to figure out how to dismantle those things from my life, because those things I saw as these same things and these same boundaries that I was hitting my head up against, that were hurting me and traumatizing me and like making me feel like I had to betray parts of myself in order to have any chance of like surviving. And I just got fucking tired. I think at a point I just started being like, I've tried to go along on this game where there's these systems that aren't made or created for me to thrive as the individual that I know myself to be. So why am I continuing to invest and put my energy in them? And, I think like the more I started studying like energy work and stuff like that, I'm like, if I'm putting my energy in these things that do not give me anything back, then why am I putting my energy in them? And so I kind of slowly started, at least going in and detangling what those threads are in my mind so that I can be able to detach and reimagine a life and a community and a space that I do feel good putting my energy in, that when I put that energy in, it grows in abundance, because I think that is still possible. We've never had the opportunity to even imagine what that is.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, how I came into, going into this process of decolonization.
Wow. You just made me so happy. Like,
Definitely, like, listening to like the path to where you are now kind of emphasizes a couple main points that we talk about a lot on this podcast. First off, that capitalism and white supremacy and patriarchy are all tools of colonialism, and that there's definitely a like reward punishment system where if you don't follow it, people are going to call you names, people are going to be enact all kinds of forms of violence on other people in order to uphold this system that benefits them in some way. And so just hearing like the entire path and then coming around to the system doesn't work and working to like not necessarily fix it, but like to push to change it,
Yeah.
There's so much to fix.
Right. And I think for me, it's funny because like I'm hearing, like, it's so funny because there's always these different arguments of like, well, how do we change it? How do we fix it? Blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I think for me, I know hopefully I don't get too woo-woo, but I am kind of a woo-woo person. But like, I don't know. I'm a very woo-woo and scientific person. I think they're the same thing. It's just like spoken in a different language. One of my friends called it like spiritual physics. Like, and when you are looking at energy, and when you are looking at what you put your energy in, what you are rooted in, what are your belief systems, and what do you put parts of yourself in? It's funny because there's all these questions of like, well, how do we solve it? How do we fix it? Like, do we let it topple down and da-da-da-da? And how I see it is like, when you stop giving the thing power and food and fuel to run, and you start putting it in something else and building it in a new thing, that thing is going to crumble on its own because it doesn't have the power or the fuel to continue to exist. But I think the issue when it comes to capitalism, white supremacy, and patriarchy is that it has been shoved down our throats like so much we don't even realize it. It's like this really wonderful writer and person named Sonia Renee Taylor said it very well, but like, if you're fish swimming in water and you're in water, you don't necessarily realize that it's water. And we've been existing and functioning under these systems for such a long time, and how it affects us is very different to how we've come to arrive here. But if you don't even realize that you're in that, and if you don't even realize, and also they've done a very good job of concealing and lying and gaslighting, and they've done a very good job of making it difficult to even identify and to see, you know what I mean? And decolonization is healing. And so, and just in the same way, healing is nonlinear. Once you think you go to like one well of healing and you think like you've reached the bottom, there's like a whole ass other cave from childhood one time when you were 9 that you didn't even realize was there. Like, you know what I mean? And so like, it's a constant excavation.
Right.
And it's a constant process. Yeah. And that's so anti-intuitive to our system because it doesn't feel good all the time,